If you asked me to talk about any topic for maximum 8 minutes, I would choose to talk about video games every time. My name is Chmielewski. I own a little over 500 video games. I collect for just about everything, with some of my main focuses being on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox 360. This is not a new hobby of mine though. This is something I've built over the course of my entire life. I started playing video games when I was 2 years old, and I haven't missed many days since then. For me, this stuff is like waking up in the morning, brushing my teeth, and even breathing. Which I actually think I'm better at playing video games than I am at breathing. The first video games I actually remember owning are Go Diego Go, Sapphire Rescue, and Build-A-Bear Workshop, Welcome to Hugsville, which I think I received for my 5th birthday, along with a Nintendo DS. Today, I'm not so sure what was so special about those games. I personally don't find them enjoyable at all, but they had 5-year-old me in a trance, one that never really seemed to end. As the years progressed, I kept receiving games for birthdays and holidays. Most of my family quickly realized I was really into them, and they made for a pretty easy gift. By the time I hit the end of elementary school, my collection was pretty sizable. I had a lot of Wii, Wii U, DS, and 3DS games. I wouldn't say my collection officially started till age 10 or 11, when my mother gifted me her Super Nintendo with a handful of her old video games. This ignited my interest in retro gaming. Eventually, we made our way to Crossgates Mall one day, and we noticed this game store that only sold retro games. My mom had purchased me a copy of Mario Paint that day, which I could play on her old Super Nintendo. And that was it. That was the defining moment video game collecting became my hobby. Something I noticed in that store was the price of all those games and just how expensive of a hobby this could be. For a long time I looked at my video games and mostly thought about their monetary value, which influenced me to keep my collection in the best condition possible. Whenever I got a new game, I would always deep clean it by first removing all the paper inserts and soaking the case in water. I'd let the case dry and spray the disc with Pledge, which would help the console read the game easier. As a kid with no money, if I had an expensive game, it was almost always lucky. My most expensive game is Pokemon White version 2, which is worth around $200 today. This was a gift I got for my 6th birthday. Doom for the Super Nintendo is the only expensive game I ever bought before I had a real job. It had everything going for it for me. It was expensive, complete in box, and had this unique red shell. Plus, I absolutely love Doom, so I knew I just had to have it. While my collection was impressive value-wise, it didn't mean much to me. But recently, I've begun to see things a little differently. It's 2024, some Sunday in May, and I'm going to my father's house for the first half of the week. We had a fight over text the previous night, and it continued as soon as I stepped foot into his house. During this fight, I got kicked out, but I wasn't just gonna leave all my shit in his house. So we're screaming at each other while I'm packing everything I own into my tiny Ford Escape. I turned to the only parent I had left, my mother, and moved in with her full time. The next few months became a huge transitional period in my life. I stopped talking to my father, I graduated high school, I started my first real job, and began attending classes at Hudson Valley. In that several month span, I didn't have time for collecting, not that I really wanted to do it anyways. My entire collection just sat in the corner of my room, boxed up and untouched the entire summer. So much had changed for me by that September, I felt like a completely new person, and felt good enough to finally tackle unpacking my belongings. Putting my collection back on display gave me a good chance to individually recognize every game I own, which is when my collection finally found its true meaning. That day, I finally realized every game on my shelf was a memory I shared with somebody else, and that plumber with the red hat was at the forefront of it all. I realized Super Mario Sluggers is the go-to Saturday night game for me and my friends, and one of the reasons we are still so close today. Mario Kart 7 went from being my least favorite Mario Kart to being the first game I ever played with my brother. Super Mario All-Stars went from this fantastic collection of Mario games to a memory my mom shared with her father, and decided she also wanted to share it with me. I saw my collection in a whole new light, and it stared right back at me, almost as if it were a mirror. It showed me where I've been, how I got here, and highlighted every connection I ever made with another person. It was able to show me I had people who still cared when I felt I needed it the most, and it served as a reminder to keep pushing forward. I can't act like every memory my collection shows me is exactly pleasant. I still own plenty of games that I used to share with my father, but if I didn't acknowledge these memories, I feel I wouldn't be able to acknowledge who I am today. I worked for a long time to get to a point where I like myself, and I think my game collection helped see that through.